Enterprise become a joint applicant with Flamingo Land? I mean, you couldn't make this up. They then become joint applicant and spend hundreds of thousands a year money getting reports done for Flamingo Land to submit along with a planning application. If any council in Scotland, including my own, was trying to deliver a set-up like that, it would be found to be illegal. I just do not understand how they can sit on a panel and then become joint applicants with Scottish Enterprise. There must be a huge conflict of interest there. And I believe on that point alone the Scottish Government should call in the Sorry, Chair, give me a wee bit extra time. I'm a senior citizen. I believe if this development goes ahead, we'll create two barracks. And as Jackie's already said earlier, it will be the small businesses that we know in the village of Balloch at the moment that will suffer because these big companies make their money by making sure that the customers stay on site. We'll destroy the southernmost tip of Loch Lomond. We need to keep up the struggle. We will only get one chance to save Loch Lomond. Say no to this development by Flamingo Land.
Right. Thank you very much, Jim. I didn't know it. You were making some sense. Next is Councillor Sally Page. She's Conservative Councillor for the Lomond Ward, on the council. She sits in a number of committees, including the planning pre-application consultation. So I'll give you the floor, Sally. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Rory. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. Thank you, Alana and Sam and the Save Loch Lomond team for organising this event. Lomond Banks is a joint development proposal submitted by Flamingo Land Limited and Scottish Enterprise, the commercial arm of the Scottish Government. Scottish Enterprise do not need to sell the land at West Riverside for the development to go ahead. Many businesses operate from leased premises. I have a suspicion that the developer has a long-term plan that he has not yet declared. Over the last 18 months, I've listened to the people of Balloch voicing an almost unanimous opinion in firm opposition to the proposed development. Only 2 people that I have met with have wanted the development to go ahead. This is mainly because they would like to see the station square improved and more jobs in the area. I agree Station Square could be much improved from how it stands now, but it does not need to be changed totally. We need to keep those 100 parking spaces as they are filled every day at this time of year, and most of those coming use our cafes and shops. Cameron House, when rebuilt, will be recruiting over 300 staff. This is a sound employer offering good opportunities for local people. The residents of Balloch for generations have enjoyed easy access to the banks of the loch, across the grass and through the woods. This is precious to those who live here, and should this development go ahead, Balloch will lose something that the people hold dear. Not everyone jumps on a plane to go on holiday. Balloch's charm would be compromised by overdevelopment. Residents who enjoy where they live would have something taken away from their lives. This is no way for the Scottish Government to treat people. People come to Balloch to enjoy it because it is not over-commercialised. I have concerns about the roads, also about the police coping with such an influx of people at weekends. I have concerns about the standard of buildings being proposed. The £35 million spent is not much for the proposals that we're looking at. Therefore, I think the standard is going to be very low. I worry that the Loch Lomond and Trossachs National Park have been unable to talk to local residents in an open manner. We live here and must be listened to. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the floor will be thrown open to you, but the one thing before we go any further, Jim mentioned that the planning application is before the Berkshire Council. It's not before the application, obviously, it's in principle, isn't it? Yeah.
Rory, it's not actually the planning application, but what's happening on Wednesday to council witness, Western Berkshire Council is the major consultee on this application because we are a neighbouring authority, and therefore we've got to be given an opportunity to discuss it and come to a democratic decision. So it's important, please come along. Partner meeting at 6 p.m. Wednesday evening in the new council buildings in Church Street in Barton.
You'll be glad to know that State Law Government, you're entitled to an allocation of 5. We have requested that. We're entitled to 2 speakers, 5 minutes each, and we haven't been refused, so I certainly sent an email telling them that that's what we're requesting. So we hope to be able to speak and to speak in detail. Although it's only 5 minutes each, we're going to have to, we get a lot longer than you know. We're going to be able to speak on Wednesday night. Quite a number of issues, and that was one of the reasons why the public meeting is so important to us, because it helps inform us. There are issues we maybe haven't even had a chance to think of that you want raised or whatever, so we'll try and do that as well and incorporate it in where we can. 5 minutes is 5 minutes for 2 speakers, so we get 10 minutes all in. So that's to let you know. Right, I'm going to say we'll throw it open to questions. What I'm looking for is a general question. I'd like to let the panel all have a go at it, a bit like question time. So, can I see a show of hands? Anyone that has a question? There's a lady here. Can I have my balance assistance? One of you. Well, it's the lady here. There we go. Right, your mic is on.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Most people know that I'm Maurice Harvey. I submitted an objection to this application, but before I did it, I took the time and trouble to go into the National Parks website and find out exactly what their stated aims and objectives are. I then based my objection on these aims and objectives, on these aims and aims. So my question is not so much for this panel, my question is for the National Park. How can they possibly justify this application when it clearly goes against their 4 stated aims? To conserve and enhance the natural heritage area, to promote sustainable use of the natural resources of the area, to promote understanding and enjoyment of the special qualities of the area, and to promote sustainable social and economic development of the area's communities. The panel, I think, all agrees that this application is completely contrary to these stated aims. How do we convince the Park Authority that they are going against their own aims?
We've been joined on I'm not going to negate the question, I will come back to your question. We've been joined on the stage by Maurice Curry, Conservative MSP. Maurice, I think it's only fair saying you made the journey. I know you were delayed, so that's all right. If you take that microphone, you can have 3 minutes to outline what you think about the project. Maurice, I will introduce you, Conservative Party MSP, a decorated officer, a major in the Royal Regiment of Scotland at one time, having served as a councillor with Ireland Youth. He was elected to the Scottish Parliament in 2016, and he sits on the Petitions Committee, in the Scottish Parliament. So, the floor is yours.
Chairman, thank you very much indeed. I'm sorry I was a bit late getting here, but I had to sit on a special meeting with the Justice Committee in Edinburgh at Parliament. Yes, I also I'm also involved with the Justice Committee as well. Yeah, I'm a local lad, okay, I was born and bred in Helmsburgh. All my children were born in the Benedict Hospital. I loved Loch Lomond. I've soccered it, I've run round it, I've run up Ben Lomond. I've sadly lost a very good friend of mine in Loch Lomond, a tragic road accident many years ago. And so therefore, it means a lot to me. And I think it's excellent that we're trying to preserve the goodness and the greatness of Loch Lomond. But one thing I think is very important, having been involved in a couple of campaigns, not unlike this, over towards Salisbury and Rue, I know how difficult it is that when the discussions get going and there's a certain amount of heat gets generated on both sides. But one thing I would say to the team who are driving this is I think it's important to also have an alternative if somebody is objecting to it, people are objecting to it. I support the work you're all doing. I think it's very important that we listen to both sides of the argument, but I do think it's important that you take the argument that you've got to the Loch Lomond and Trossachs board, a National Park board here, because it's the directors, it's those on that planning committee that are going to make the final decision. I think it's very, very important, and I hope you have met with them, in certainly not now, certainly time to come. I know my colleague Sally on my left here has got an excellent alternative plan, which no doubt will speak to you about, and obviously I think I commend that to you. My concerns are economic, really, and also around the questions of car parking and infrastructure such as roads and what have you. That's a major, major issue, something like this is to come here. And obviously it generates lots of people, lots of vehicle movement, and I think we really need to take this with the council to look at what the whole road situation is going to be. But as I say, the other issue is the local boat clubs. I've spoken with them and I realise there's an issue there in relation to the longevity of their current arrangement, and that really needs to be honoured. And also the question is the reduction in the amount of full-time jobs that have actually come out of this potential proposal from Lomond Banks. So on economic grounds, it's obviously a very questionable project, but at the same time is maybe some good comes out of it. But also to think of an alternative way. For example, it's very, I remember when it's a Red Dye Works here, I knew people worked in it. In fact, my son-in-law's granny was the PA to the managing director of it, so I do have a connection with it here. A very good friend of mine in the TA, I was commander of the TA unit here in Dumbarton and Argyll, and his wife ran the Woodbank Hotel. So I know it quite well. But I think at the end of the day, we need to listen to the parts of this, and I think that we need to create a greener park for the move from the current car park up to the Maid of the Loch where it is. I think that's important to keep that and keep some of the old woodland and what have you. But I just say to you, do come up with an alternative plan so it then puts that aside what's being proposed, because it's a local idea. As you well know, this has been in the idea, not the idea I should say, but going back to when Lomond Shores was created, the local development plan, should we call it around there, this has always been a potential site for development, and obviously somebody stepped forward in the form of Lomond Banks. But as I say, if you, from experience, sit down with people, there might be compromise, there might be some great benefits out of it, but put forward an alternative. As I say, Sally has put a lot of effort into the plan that she'll talk about, which I know will bring jobs and also will bring opportunities. But I offer you my full support in getting the best resolution to this. Thank you.
Thank you much. The next question we had here was asking about the National Park objectives. I'll come back to the other people, don't worry, keep your arms up for the next question, but we here asked a question about the objectives of the National Park and how the plan could possibly, now, who wants to take it up first? There you go, you can take it up first, there you go.
Thank you. I think partly the answer to your question is that National Park has long ago stopped following its objectives and it doesn't listen. I set up Parks Watch. I set up Parks Watch to try and expose what's going on. The National Parks is a thoroughly undemocratic organisation. It's extremely hard for anyone to lobby board members because, for example, there are no emails or contact details for any board members apart from local councillors who you can find out through your local councillor. The other board members is completely secret. That's a complete contrast to the Cairngorms National Park, where you can approach any board member you want and have a conversation with them. Unfortunately, what's going on at the moment in the National Park is some senior staff basically running the show, and they're running it in an extremely secretive manner. And I think that makes persuasion very, very difficult. And I would just conclude by saying I think that's really what's needed. It's not just talking, it's organisation. It's people coming together and actually becoming a force that they can't say no to.
I mentioned at the start about how if we want to see this proposal rejected, we need to explain very clearly why it goes against the National Parks own objective, which is exactly what Rose has just been saying. And it's abundantly clear when you look at this proposal. For a start, the proposal claims that Drumkennan Wood is allocated for development in local development park. It is not. A tiny bit of it is. There are entire sections of what they're claiming that just simply aren't the case. So they claim, for example, they talk about the questionable use or value of Drumkennan Wood. If you want to develop somewhere like that, according to the National Parks own policies, you have to make clear that the full policy actually provides for the protection of places like Drumkennan Wood on the basis of formal and informal open space, and public or private ownership, unless it can be determined that the open space is not of community value and has no other multifunctional purpose such as cultural, historical, biodiversity or local amenity value. Who here, put your hands up, do you think that Drumkennan Wood has some kind of community value? Yes. Absolutely. So on the basis of that, they should be rejecting these proposals. And I mentioned that the only grounds on which a development can be granted if it contradicts the local plan is if they can provide for an overriding public interest. Jackie mentioned the fact that the number of jobs they've claimed to create through this proposal has halved since they started proposing it. And if you look at their own impact assessment, for some reason it's in the environmental impact assessment, it says here 75% of the jobs that they're going to create would be created anyway because the hospitality industry, the tourism industry in the region is doing well. There's no overriding public interest here based on jobs. They've not claimed in their development there's any other overriding public interest, so they have to follow their own policy and reject it.
Whereas I remember debating the establishment of the national parks in the Parliament about 20 years ago, and at the time we were very clear that the objectives and aims had to abide by what was called the Sanford Principles. And what this means in essence is that when it comes to considering any, whether it's a plan application or any policy that the National Park wants to follow, they need to put environmental concerns and conservation above everything else. It outweighs every other consideration that the park can have. Let me make just a practical suggestion, because we know the park's going to have a full board meeting to consider this application. We also know that they're going to probably do it over 2 days, one for the public inquiry element of it, where people will have an opportunity to make representation directly, and the other for a site visit. I'm not sure they're going to pack everybody in to 1 day, but let's see. The papers normally come out with the officer recommendations about a week before. I think there's such significant public interest that the need for transparency is paramount. I'm calling on the National Park tonight to not give us just a week's notice, but to give us a minimum of 2 weeks' notice, so that people who want to object at that public inquiry can have their voice heard. So I think that's particularly important. I asked the Parliament whether the Scottish Government would call it in, because I've got more faith in the Scottish Government, even though I'm from an opposition party, than I do necessarily just leaving it locally, because it is such a significant application. And let me say to you, the last time I was in this hall, talking about planning and the national park is when they were set to refuse planning permission to Chance up at Balham. We cannot let them stand in the way of the local community's wishes again. We need to make sure that this application is rejected, and if it's not rejected, it's called in.
Do you want to say, Morris, do you want to say anything, or do you want to, Sally, do you want to say?
Thank you, Rose, for your question. Some time ago, I wrote to Rosanna Cunningham, whose picture appears on the Loch Lomond Development Plan 2018 to 2023. I asked her to come to Balloch to explain to the people of Balloch how the aims of the national park could be met with such a proposal as this. I was fobbed off onto one of her colleagues, and so far I haven't had any luck in getting anything sound out of him. Rosanna has signed the forward in this document, and in one place it says, in raising the quality of visitor experience and empowering communities to have a say in the future of their towns and villages. I don't think she can have read what she was signing off. I'd also just like to say that nowhere have I been able to find figures, either from Visit Scotland or the Moffat Institute, to say that we lack in self-catering accommodation in this area. So I don't know why the park won't talk to anyone, and it's infuriating that they're being so secretive. I don't know, they're just driving me bonkers. Thank you.
Bonkers will be the official term, I guess. Yeah. Jennifer, over to you.
Thanks very much, Rory. Well, Rose, I mean, you've heard some of the implications of how we can object and take the campaign forward. But I think it's important to know, and I think Nick touched on organisation. You know, when you live in a so-called democracy, the establishment don't listen to you. It's a well-known principle that you're allowed to get involved in civil disobedience. Not only civil disobedience, but you're allowed to get involved in non-violent direct action to state their case. I'm a democracy when you're nobody listens to it. So I think we need to bear that in mind, hopefully as we come to that, and we win the argument. But we need to keep that at the back of the mind. This is only stage one of a campaign I think is going to go on for a while. And I believe in a democracy, when the establishment, with the Loch Lomond Park Authority at the centre of, don't listen to local people and 57,000 other people, then we've got a right to think about civil disobedience.
Are you happy with the answer? You happy with the answer? Next one up there. Okay, thank you. Sorry, Doug, pick my up. Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Pat Lee, I'm from Lanarkshire, and you might be wondering why I've come all the way up to Balloch to speak against this planning application. We in Lanarkshire have a theme park called M&D's, and M&D's is very successful, but it's the project in the right place. This application for Flamingo Land, and Morris, I've got to disagree with you. The point is, there should be no need for a second alternative. This site here is the entrance to the Highlands, and that will generate much more income for the whole area. Than anything that Flamingo Land will ever present for Balloch and the surrounding areas closest there. So my question to the panel, Jackie, you came out tonight in support of opposing this, that's brilliant, but you could have come out earlier. So I'm going to ask you, all on the panel, will you be prepared to go back to your parties, your respective parties, and whip them into not supporting this planning application.
Okay, who's going to take that one first?
Well, Pat, that was a good question. Thanks for coming to support the people in Raleigh and Loch Lomond. I mean, I'm in a fortunate position. I'm the only councillor representing the community party. So, I've already had a group meeting today. Already decided I will be going on the 26th, and I would, following the line that Pat takes, ask the other political parties to think long and hard about this. We will only get one chance, and it's coming up. And I think when you look at the strength of feeling across Scotland and the rest of the world about what's going on in Loch Lomond, we need to recognise that, and we need to grasp that and say no to this Flamingo Land.
Thanks, Steve. I don't know how much therapy I can take after that, thinking about you whipping yourself. But anyway,
Thank you very much for the question, Pat. I've spent, and there are members of the Boat Club here tonight, so I'm sure they will comment. I've spent a lot of time with them, both trying to negotiate the lease initially with Scottish Enterprise and then trying to negotiate it with Flamingo Land. I think I would have been doing them a disservice if I'd then spoken out very loudly, but we were coming to a point before the application was remotely being considered that I was going to make my views known. And I had that discussion with them so that they knew I'd taken it as far as I could do. Okay? Forgive me, I have a soft spot for them, having spent many an evening trying to get to a position where we secured the River Leven, they secured the pontoons, and we secured the future, not just for them, but for generations to come. So I felt that was a priority at that time. I've been very clear that the opportunity presented tonight, I think, is a tremendous one for the community to come together and for their voice to be heard. And I am very clear in my opposition to the Flamingo Land proposals. Planning, unfortunately, is one of these areas where Jim might whip himself, but actually, because it's a quasi-judicial process, you can't whip people. I would love to, but there's not a Labour councillor on the National Park Board. They are members of the ruling administration of Western Berkshire Council and the ruling administration of Argyll and Bute Council. So actually, we need to convince our leaders in both local councils about the strength of feeling that this community has. I have no problem trying to do that, even though they may come from different parties, because I think the community's interest is the overriding one with this application.
The point that Jackie made about the planning process being quasi-judicial is really important. It is incredibly important to lobby members of the National Park Board, especially the council. Please keep lobbying them, but be aware that they can't sit with you in the meeting and say, yeah, absolutely, I agree, I'll vote to reject this. If they do that beforehand, then they're not allowed to vote on the decision. And we want the ones who agree with us to be voting on this decision. As far as my party is concerned, I just checked there on my phone, the Green Party have collected 56,205 objections to Flamingo Land so far. We've raised £3,000 to have an environmental lawyer submit a full, it's about 18-page objection to the proposals, and we'll be helping Save Loch Lomond organise a rally on the eve of the Planning Board, the National Park Board's decision. So the Green Party are absolutely behind this campaign, but acknowledging what Jackie just said, we don't have councillors on the National Park Board, so we've obviously got far more flexibility to do this. But be in no doubt that at every step of the way, the Green Party will be throwing all the resources that we've got at stopping Flamingo Land and saving Loch Lomond.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, on that question, it's good to see a Lanark man come here and advise us accordingly. What I was saying in my comments originally was it is good to think laterally and also to see what can be done from a development from within our own resources here. That's what I was meaning, okay? And that can also give some ideas and put some pressure on the Loch Lomond National Park. No, I won't support this development plan, that's quite clearly. There are also, having been a councillor in Argyll Butte, there are very clear guidelines and rules as far as members of the planning authority are concerned. Yes, we can nudge them, we can talk to them, but obviously there is entirely their decision, and they cannot in any way tread beyond that line. We, as a candidate of my party, have won on that board, and I know she's extremely professional and would not deviate at all from the rules. So yes, a great idea, but from that point of view, unfortunately, we can't do that. But can I just say something to you, sir? I actually put a question in the Scottish Parliament to Mary Goujon, who's the Minister for Rural Economy, about listening to the residents of the area when the Loch Lomond National Park, or a national park, puts forward plans. And they must do that. That's written in law. So there's actually no question. They've got to listen to the voice of the people here tonight and to those who Save Loch Lomond campaign. So we'll do all we can. Thank you.
Okay, before I go on to the next question, I think this might be an appropriate time. We've had various statements from people who were invited to the meeting and couldn't make it. We've got one from Loch Lomond and Trossachs National Park, who were here. We had the choice then to chair them, but we decided that the stage was too small to do that. So one of the things they do say, though, is the National Park Authority will continue to accept representations from interested parties until the point where officers are ready to make a recommendation to board members to either approve, to board members to either approve or refuse planning permission in principle for this application. I'm sure that you will appreciate that while officers at the National Park are still considering this live application, it would be inappropriate for any board member to attend this meeting, so I'll have to decline your invitation. So that just backs up what was said. It is important to keep the lobbying process going. You may not get a response to your lobbying right away, but the point is it's not being ignored, it's actually being taken on board as they go. Well, okay, if you want to raise that point, you can in a sec. What I was just saying, I just thought that in the interest of fairness, if two parties are having a dispute, and one's wanting to be an idiot, that's fine, the other one wants to give a statement, that's fine, they can. Let us at least share their statement so that we hear it. So, you have a question, did you say? Okay, right, can we have that? Alana, can we have the... Okay, right.
Who are they accountable to? They're getting paid a salary and they're being very evasive. Why are they getting away with being evasive? Who are they accountable to, and why can't they get more out of them, more of a commitment?
There are three, the National Park Board is tripartite, it's split into three bits, right? One is local councillors, who are nominated by the local councillors. The second part is the directly elected members. Those of you who live here should have elected some people. Unfortunately, your two elected members who should be representing you, who are David Cowan here and Willie Nisbet, who's on the other side of South Loch Lomond, have both declared an interest in this development and can't take any further part in the proceedings. Right? So they're out of the picture completely. And then the last third of people are nominees from the Scottish Government, and they're directly accountable to ministers. It's worth saying that all the nominees, both in theory, I think that locally elected members and the councillors actually have to be endorsed by the Scottish Government minister, but actually I don't think a minister's ever refused a nomination of someone who's been democratically nominated.
Are you happy with the answer? Sorry. You happy with the answer? No. Well, they can't. That was part of the point we're saying. They can't, if they're on there, and they can't actually come out in favour or against. Otherwise, they can't vote on it. So that's the point. They're bound by the process.
But they can't discuss.
They can discuss. There's nothing wrong with discussing with them. You can enter into discussion with them. If they refuse to do that, I'm sure you can take that up through other channels. But the point is that you can discuss with them, but you cannot get a decision from them. You cannot, because if they give you a decision, they exclude themselves from the process any further in the process. Hans, lady here.
My question is, how was it possible for land that was purchased for 2 million to be sold for 200,000 pounds? How did that
I have posed that question in the Scottish Parliament and didn't get an answer. I asked whether it was value for money for the public purse to have purchased something for more than 2 million and then to dispose of it for 200,000. But the point I'm making is, I think it's worse than that. I think public money has gone into producing some of the reports that have been submitted alongside the planning application, and I would guess that there's going to be at least about £200,000 worth. But if you watch what Scottish Enterprise do, they're a development agency, so the idea is that they give grants and loans to companies that are coming to locate in Scotland. I would put money on it now that they are going to give more of our money to Flamingo Land to come here when we don't actually want them. So I will still, along with Ross and Morris, try and pursue these answers, but we're not getting them from the Scottish Government because ideally I would have wanted them to stop the sale of the land, particularly at bargain basement price.
So far there has been at least £160,000 spent, at least that. We know there's £160,000 being spent, so we're almost to the 200,000. I don't want to enter into the debate that I used to let other people speak. My only question about it is Scottish Enterprise are helping buy the land that they already own for £200,000, which I just find pretty telling. So, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, Jackie's covered the core point there. Fundamentally, Scottish Enterprise's objectives are really, really narrow. So we're just talking about the National Parks objectives, and on the basis of them they should reject. Scottish Enterprise objectives are so narrow around this, a very particular vision of economic development and economic growth and job creation, that when we end up in the situation of Scottish Enterprise holding land, so bear in mind they are an agency of the government, that is publicly owned land, Scottish Enterprise are basically in the habit of fire sales. They just want to make a quick buck, getting rid of the land. It creates development by any definition you want. It's created some jobs, that's fine, they've ticked the box and moved it on. That is a fundamental problem with our government agencies. Scottish Enterprise shouldn't just have that economic responsibility. There needs to be a much wider social responsibility there. Highlands and Islands Enterprise, because they've got a separate enterprise agency, specific needs, they have that wider social responsibility in a way that Scottish Enterprise doesn't have. That results in communities like this one being very badly served by an arm of the government whose only interest here is making a quick buck selling the land and some job numbers on a spreadsheet that they can put in their next annual report. That's utterly unacceptable for an arm of the government that's supposed to be acting in our interests.
Thank you, Jan, for that question. Just to reassure everyone, I've put a similar question to Council for this forthcoming meeting. Does the land really, if the development is going to go ahead, is it necessary to sell the land? Because I cannot understand why it is necessary to do that. So let's see what the Western Bartonshire councillors vote, and I hope they vote with Jim and myself. Thank you.
There's a lot of hands up. Did you say you have somebody over there? You've got somebody there. Right, 1, 2, and 3, sir. Don't show your hand up. I will be coming to you, so don't. So that's the next 3. So do you want to hit with a question?
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to begin by thanking the Save the Waterlogging campaign. It's obvious if it weren't for them, we wouldn't be here tonight, and such a groundswell of opinion wouldn't have happened. At the wall being decided over Port and Stilton and the Portsmouth. We're fair, there's little I can add to what I've heard tonight, but what I would like to say is it's good to hear so many people tonight say to people, you have no right to take away our right to enjoy nature. You absolutely have no right. And the point about the public money that's already been spent is an absolute disgrace. So the Scottish Government must go by now through their efforts, the way the National Park here are carrying on, and why are the government appointees being allowed to let this happen. Surely the money that's already been spent could have been set up by local community groups, creating locally more sustainable environmental jobs. And I hope everyone here tonight continues to fight that and fight this ridiculous development. It's sheer robbery.
Thank you very much. Can we try, nice statement, I'm not objecting to you having an opinion, but can you also try and wrap up the question, otherwise we've got people up here who need to keep them busy as well. See they're here. Next question, do you want to, you got somebody up there? Right, okay, I'm coming to you, so don't worry.
I think we've seen today that we really do need an organisation here to save Loch Lomond. I think it's been launched tonight if it hasn't been launched before. Congratulations to everybody there. It's well needed. Secondly, I'd like to say that conflicts of interest are so deep in all of these organisations. SNH is overruled by the National Park in most cases. There are never, as would be in the private sector, independent, generally independent companies or professions coming into here. If you ask, why don't we have professional opinion coming from even other European countries, it never happens. There is no other professional opinion included in any of these large projects. And thirdly, I'd like to say for the MSPs, what are we going to do about this? Because the next project is just along the road. This is the same, I remember sitting in Balloch when the Logan Shores project was taking place, and the porky pies and the imagination that was put into that project and the failure which we have seen in the Carbuncle is just happening again and again, and we've really got to nip it in the bud. It's a waste of money. Local companies are going to have to be competing with massive subsidised companies coming out from England. Well, why should the enterprise company be allowed to make our businesses more difficult? Thank you.
Thanks very much. I just want to comment on the last point about the 200,000. Almost 200,000 has been spent already of your money purchasing reports to convince the council and other bodies that this is a great idea. When we questioned the lead in the Scottish Enterprise in the 28th of May when the council met them, there was a question along those lines asked, and he actually admitted that there will be more money, more public money invested in Flamingo Land because Scottish Enterprise were now applicants and they would be looking at investment possibilities in the future. So the 108 that's been spent in those chicken feed, I think will probably end up with a million spent. But the colleague there mentioned Logan Shores. Another interesting point with Scottish Enterprise when we met them was they admitted publicly for the first time that Logan Shores has not been successful. That was the head speaker from Scottish Enterprise. That had not been successful, and the reason we're wanting Flamingo Land is to try and make it successful and sustainable. Now, coming to an organisation that backed Logan Shores with £30 million of public money saying it's not been successful, but now we're going to go into another bunch of public land that you own, and we're going to create another carbuncle, as the gentleman said, in Balloch. I mean, these people are living on a different planet. They really are. You know, and I think we need to understand that in the coming years, if this development goes ahead, the Scottish Government, through their agency, will be spending a lot more of your money subsidising Flamingo Land to make private profits to go back to Yorkshire.
As my granny used to say, she said, the mistake is not making a mistake, the mistake is repeating it. But anyway, carry on.
Yeah, it's quite a few points to address there. First was the point the gentleman made there about the public's right to access nature. That's something the developers have really emphasised, this idea that it's not as if we're going to lock the gates, the public will still be able to access the site. Well, there's a huge difference between that clearly publicly accessible bit of public land at the moment, for example, Drumkinnon Woods being the best example of it, and a site that then has hundreds of tourists, dozens and dozens and dozens of holiday lodges, a water park, a hotel, houses. It doesn't matter whether they lock the gate or not, that's clearly not for the public anymore, that's for them to profit from. There's a huge difference there in terms of public access. The gentleman mentioned SNH being overruled by the National Park. I've asked SNH, I've asked the National Park to approach Scottish natural heritage again on the specific issue of the Atlantic salmon, because that's one of the protected species under European directive, and the National Park should be getting SNH's opinion on the impact on the salmon, because that's not something that's happened properly yet. But you made a really interesting point about what the MSP is going to do ahead of the next project here. Well, actually, we spent quite a lot of time last week doing something that does affect projects like this. Roughly every 10 years, the Scottish Parliament will introduce new planning laws. So we just passed, or a planning bill was just passed. And I went into it, and I know Jackie went into that process as well, trying to do what we could to empower communities in this process. Because at the moment the planning process doesn't empower community. If an application is granted, communities do not get a right to appeal it. Jackie and I both voted for community right of appeal. It wasn't passed. In fact, the planning bill ended up with a lot of community empowerment stuff that we put in at the second stage of it being taken back out at the third stage of it, to the point where neither of us, neither of our parties could vote for the plan. We ended up voting against that planning bill because it wasn't making the situation better, it was making it worse. So I can tell you, as your representatives, we've been trying to empower communities in the planning process ahead of developments like this happening over and over and over again. That's not the planning bill we've ended up with, and for the next decade we're going to have planning law that does not empower our communities. I think that's unacceptable, that's why I voted against that planning bill.
Thank you, Chair. The question about Scottish Enterprise and the question of not really working properly, I can go right back to 1970, 71, when it was the Scottish Development Agency, and I can tell you it has not changed at all. I had to go and see them as the representative of a company which was having some difficult times, but we knew that we could turn the corner with a little help on a loan, as it was, which is quite common in those days. And I was told, taken into the boardroom of Scottish Development Agency, and I was told, as a young manager, that they'd rather see the company go to the wall and lose 45 jobs than to give us some support. So I don't really have a very good view on that basis of Scottish Enterprise. And I'll never forget that, as a young manager at the age of 22, 23, having to tell my workers in a factory in Lamb Hill, in Glasgow, that was the situation. We managed to go on, and we fortunately found a partner, but that's not really very good news to get. Also, in my own area of West Scotland, and indeed in Ross's, we've got the Prestwick Airport scenario just beyond us, which is a shambles. But there we are, that's another Scottish Enterprise issue, backed by the Scottish Government as well. So I would say to you that there's a lot of they've got to look at themselves and see what they really want to do with it. But the Scottish Government really is not doing itself any favours with this.
I'd just like to make a comment on Scottish Enterprise's meeting when I met with them about 18 months ago about this, and I asked for information on other developers who've been involved in the process and the main reasons for driving this plan so hard. I was told it was designated for tourism in the National Park Policy Local Plan, which I could find that it was. But when I quizzed them on what tourism means, they seem to only have a blinkered view, in my opinion, that on the edge of a national park it means a whole pile of concrete. I tried to tell them that designated for tourism does not need to mean any more than a well cared for piece of ground with picnic tables and a few litter bins. The tourists come here for the natural beauty, and less is more in a national park.
Thank you. There's a gentleman here, please.
Thanks very much. I'm a bit of a nurse, actually. Someone said that this thing is bonkers with Scottish Enterprise Group yourself, someone said that someone made the comment that everything was a bit bonkers about all of this. Can I tell you that there are members, there are residents, there are community activists who have been driven bonkers by this man. I have been driven bonkers by this whole process. It is almost impossible for an individual, for community activists, for those who dearly and truly love their local area, to fight a system that is designed to cut them out at every opportunity. It is designed to quiet them down. It is designed to ensure that no matter what you say, there's a barrier to the truth and a barrier to where your heart's wishes are. Now, I'm going to say something that I really don't want to say. I am so very disappointed indeed to see that we've not gone full cross-party on that table. I'm very disappointed indeed. There are some people missing here. I urge everyone on this panel to get across to the whole of Western Berkshire Council. We have to unite as a community to oppose this, because what we are doing, if we do not, are killing the goose that lays the golden eggs. We're voting far too precious. It's not just precious to us locally, it's precious to all of Scotland and to this world. And to even consider turning it into some kind of business area is beyond anything I can. The robots can come out of my lips and describe the anger I feel and the emotions that other people feel. This planning application is bonkers, and it's for people like me to despair. And I want to ask you one question. Will you urge others who may oppose politically to wake up, realise that this is so important, it cannot be left to party politics, that no matter what it means for their votes, they have to deal with their consciences here for once in their lives.
Just before we go any further, can I just let you know, everybody was invited. Flamingo Land was invited, the National Park were invited, as were all political parties and all active causes around, to let them know that they had a chance to be here. The people you see here are the ones who responded and said they wanted to come, so they are the ones who are speaking to you tonight. Would you like to speak?
Can I just make a very quick comment? I mean, I've been calling for the Scottish Government, which isn't my political party, to actually call this application in, partly because I do genuinely believe what you said is right. This isn't a political matter, it's not a party political matter. It is absolutely a community interest matter, and we should hear what local residents are saying to us and reflect that at the very highest level. I spoke a little bit about process, and I don't want to labour the point, but let me just say this again. The National Park is planning 2 days for this, 1 day for the inquiry, 1 day for the site visit. I'm not sure they can hear people who want to be heard in 1 day. When I consider the number of objections set against those who think this is a good idea, I don't think we should be going for parity of numbers in terms of the arguments made. So I am asking for a longer time frame for the local community to get organised once we've seen the colour of the report presented by the National Parks officers, because that will contain recommendations. But I also think we should be asking now, given the range of community views and the numbers that require to have their voices heard and be represented, that we should actually have more time set aside for the public inquiry bit of it, so not one day, but long enough to make sure that our voices are heard.
Could I just make a very brief point? Nick and myself attended the National Park Board meeting about a week ago, and I came away with the feeling that if they can't even decide on a date for their site visit, what hope have we got in, or faith can we have in their decision making? But this is going to be the biggest decision any of those people on the planning committee will ever face, and I'm afraid I don't have that much confidence in them.
I'm not going to repeat what Jackie said, because I agree with it and call for exactly the same things. And we're not necessarily always in lockstep politically, so this is a novelty for both of us. The only thing we'd add is the consultation period for this, public consultation period, statutory consultation period, was supposed to have ended already. But through the work that my office did, the environmental lawyer that we were consulting on this, we actually found that their consultation process was flawed, it was broken, and we have had the consultation period extended by a month. So if you've already put in an objection, that's fantastic, but if you came away from tonight with more information, other areas of this weren't covered in your first objection, you can still put that in. If you've not objected yet, if you know someone that's not objected yet, a friend, a family member, a stranger that you met at the train station that you want to talk to about this, whatever works, speak to them, let them know that they can still object to these proposals. That the deadline was supposed to have passed, it has been extended. We still have the opportunity to add thousands more to the overall number of objections that we've already got, and to really demonstrate that this is a cross-party issue, this is a cross-community issue, that people across the country support us on this. We've still got time to make our already overwhelming show of opposition even stronger than it is right now.
I'm not in any political party, but I welcome the alliance that's been made here between people from different political parties. I think we need generally issues-based politics rather than one on rigid party hierarchies. Having said that, I think in the case of this application, what you really need to be aware of is that the Scottish Government is in some senses driven this application. In the National Park Partnership Plan, one of the key planning priority for the park is to deliver development on the riverside side. That is in the National Park Plan, which is meant to govern everything they do. It's been endorsed by the Scottish Government, and it explains a lot. It drives everything that's happening. Now, I think it's also worth commenting on this. People talked about the importance of the neutrality earlier, the planning decisions, and that it's quasi-judicial, what they say, and people who are involved in those decisions have to be very careful about saying things beforehand. Well, all the members of the National Park Board are already signed up to delivering this development. It's in their National Park Partnership Plan that they've agreed. That just has to be totally wrong. The other bit of the bias of this, which I think is worth understanding, is that when you had local elections for National Park members last year, I've discovered this under Freedom of Information, I haven't put it out on Parks Watch yet, but the local candidates standing in ballot were sent a letter, and they were sent a letter saying that if you're standing in this election, and if you speak out about Flamingo Land, and you get elected, you will be precluded from taking part in any of the planning process. So on the one hand, people are being told they can't stand for things they believe in, right, and then take part in the planning process. But on the other hand, if the government's told you to deliver this, right, you just got to get on and do it. The whole thing is just totally rotten in my view.
Right, the next one. I'll have to come down here to the front. Yeah, go.
It's hard to know where to begin with all this. One of the elephants in the room is we already know that an ex-manager from Lowland Shores has already been employed with the company that's taken us over. So this will actually be not just from England, they'll have Lowland Shores as well. But we have total monopoly, and the 1.2 million visitors we had to put up with when we can't get to our house, because when you get to McDonald's, they're actually trying to queue in the road. And you're putting your heart and say, I'm queuing for McDonald's here, we're just trying to get home. But you're stuck in the 82 for an hour trying to go home for a wee visit out for the weekend. It's going to get worse, and it's going to get much worse. I don't know it's going now. I have been driven to despair. My health has suffered from trying to fight this, because I was going to be represented. The last time I spoke here was at a meeting that we forced in the Community Council to represent our views to the National Park, because they are the legal holders of our opinion. And what did they do? They totally ignored it. The Ballard and Haldane Community Council represent you. Who? Let's hear it. Do they? Do you think they're honest people? Right, but it's not just representation, it was just brought up there about the gerrymandering of the election. Our one representative to the council board was told, no, you can't speak about Flamingoland. They timed it all beautifully. Now I've been trying really hard to get something done about this. What are we going to do? What's the future of this? The question I would like to ask, when I get around to this, is about national parks in general. We've lost the franchise because we are unlucky enough to live in a national park. The local council has been taking out all the planning decisions here, and it's been handed over to an unelected Quango who are cooperating with another unelected Quango to force this on us. They don't look to be represented by it. They hate that we have a voice in this matter. It will be denied this. It's actually the Western Berkshire Community Empowerment Officer that's allowing Ballard and Haldane Community Council to get away with not representing or misrepresenting their views, which is a criminal offence under the 2009 Establishment of Community Council Act, Scotland. It's an actual criminal offence not to represent their values. And it was like 100% against it, but they turned out and approved it. Where am I going with that?
Can I actually brief the question, because you've almost had 3 minutes, which is what the speaking time is now.
I am going. I'll be speaking at the council meeting on Wednesday. Jim's right. We need to take this down on Wednesday night, down to the council offices, to let them know how we feel. You really need to do this on Wednesday. I put my name down to speak, and I'm going to speak. I don't know if I'm going to get 10 minutes to have a delegation of one. If anybody wants to join me, feel strongly, you can always do that. But get down to this meeting. It's important. They know what we're doing. We need to get the councillors. We need to take joint action to do this. But I'd like to ask you, if this lack of representation, that our planning has been handed over to this Quango, if this goes ahead, could this be the death of the national park movement in Scotland, where people see what can happen here if you live in a national park? It's a disaster. It's the worst thing that has ever happened to this area.
No, you're making me like to answer that.
Well, just say, the plus side of being in a national park is that actually people know instinctively national parks should be different. And that's why you've got 55,000 odd people who are also on your side as local people.
I think the main point Sid makes there is this is about democracy. Western Berkshire Council used to be the planning authority for the area that's now covered by the Loch Lomond Park Authority. And if, as elected councillors, we could be lobbied and challenged about what we were going to do, but you can't do that with unelected quackos who are in hiding and won't even come to public meetings to face the public. So it is about democracy. It's about making sure that people who are supposed to represent you are accountable and accessible. for the decision they want to make on your behalf. You could do that with a local council. We've got circulars you can get us on a daily basis. But with the Local and Park Authority and Scottish Enterprise, these are unelected quangos who have got their own agenda, and it doesn't fit in with the agenda for the local community in this area.
Thanks very much. I actually agree entirely with what Jim says there. Having been a councillor in Argyll Bute Council, this is one of the biggest problems we had, in the fact that the extent of the national park goes right down to Carl, and it actually is really a national park of rural area. It's not of townships or conurbations, and so therefore it's anachronism. It should actually be involved here at all with any planning permission. And I certainly believe that the planning authority should revert back to the councils. Also, the other thing is that there is an empowerment of community councils to be statutory consultees to planning authorities, i.e. the councils, as well as the local authority councils. So therefore there's a structure there which is much more reflective of the local communities, because they are all being elected by the people themselves, not, as Jim was saying, the quango involved here. So I totally support the comments he made, and I would certainly go and fight for that to happen.
I'm not going to repeat what other folks say because it'll just waste time. All I can say is the planning system in Scotland is broken. We had an opportunity to fix it last week. It took us hours, 240 amendments at the final stage. We tried to fix this process. We were voted down trying to do it. That's why I voted against the planning bill. That's why Jackie voted against the planning bill. Ultimately, if we want to reform these issues, we need to elect enough MSPs, we need to elect a majority of MSPs to the Scottish Parliament who actually care about community empowerment, because that's where the laws come from that govern how the National Park work, that govern how our local councils work. Because those of us who do believe in community empowerment are really sick of trying to improve legislation in the Parliament and then having it ripped back out at the final stage, only for a bill that doesn't empower communities at all to be the one that's voted through and the one that we're all going to have to deal with for a decade.
They need to be joking out for ages. Then away,
I should take the lanyard off when I make this point. I'm ashamed to stand here tonight as a member of the Scottish National Party and not to see anyone from my party represented. At a time when the Scottish Government talks a fantastic game about addressing the climate emergency, at a time when they're talking about how we have to empower communities, they're talking a fantastic game and they're actually lying in their teeth. It's a disgrace. Jim's absolutely right. The people who we can address and should be addressing are the elected people. The quangos are beyond control. But the fact that the elected people are not here tonight is a disgrace.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have probably exhausted questions, and also I'm conscious that people will need to get themselves home at some point. And I'm conscious that we also made a promise to go. Oh, sorry, is there somebody? Oh, right in the back, right. Oh. Room for one mayor and talk. Come on.
Just a very simple question. Is it not possible to lodge a legal objection to this? Legally, is there enough money in a fund to actually take legal action to prevent any further things happening? Is that possible?
Yes, so the short answer is yes. The grounds on which you can legally object are pretty narrow, but they do exist. The process that we're through at the moment is we can also wait for the National Parks decision and then ask for it to be called in, but in reality that would be too late, because as soon as the National Park formally issue their decision, you can't make that request anymore, which is why Jackie, myself and others have been trying to get it called into the government now. You can initiate a judicial review, so that the legal challenge to the process. To do that, you're talking at least £100,000. This is the problem with the justice system in Scotland, is it's justice for the rich most of the time. Communities are so disempowered because the process is so cripplingly expensive. I've been part of a judicial review before. We had to raise over £200,000. That was to find out whether we could stop Brexit or not, which we can. But judicial reviews are cripplingly expensive, and that is what so massively disempowers communities. I dearly, dearly hope that we will not get to that stage, but in my formal letter of objection, it lists that as one of the potential avenues that we will have to explore if it comes to that. We have to keep that option open, but we also have to be aware of the monumental amount of work it would take just for us to raise the money required to do it.
I'm not going to repeat a lot of what Ross has said because it's accurate, but just to say the judicial review process is lengthy, it's expensive. We need to stop this much earlier on if we're going to have a chance for success. So, if we're going to put our efforts anywhere, it's about either getting the Scottish Government to call it in or getting the National Park to kick it out.
I have one other suggestion, because legal processes do cost an enormous amount. What you can do relatively cheaply is in respect to community right to buy. There was a huge problem with the Scottish Enterprise site because they got an exclusivity agreement in place with Flamingo Land, but the National Park, as far as I'm aware, doesn't. And it owns a little bit of land that sits right at the back of the Aparti Hotel, right, which if you put in a bid to buy that now, would I suspect help scupper the entire process. It's pretty easy to do, but you need to get organised, and that means you need to join, say Loch Lomond, or get a properly constituted body to make that community bid. And I would suggest actually that's a practical thing that you could all do after this, is to get together and to do that in the next week or two if at all possible. And I think it would be very interesting to see how the National Park responded.
When we're talking about the possibility of challenging it legally, I'd just like to go back and reiterate a point I made earlier. When you live in a democracy and the establishment don't listen to you, it's an implied right that you've got a right to commit acts of civil disobedience and involve yourself in non-violent direct action. You obviously... Sorry?
Have you got a dead jacket?
And it can't be successful because we've done it a number of years ago when the council tried to close a nursing home in Alexandria, Levin's Cottage. Half a dozen of us for 6 months sat in there, the two residents, and we won that struggle, and we won that fight for Robert Manny. It was their homes, and we took non-violent direct action and saved that house for their two people. It can be done, and I'm not saying it's easy, it won't be easy on this case, but let's keep it at the back of the mind, if all else fails, then we should consider non-violent direct action and acts of civil disobedience.
The Scottish Land Commission roadshow came to the National Park headquarters maybe 18 months ago, led by Andrew Thinn. At that evening, I asked if a buyout would be possible for the land at West Riverside. I was told then that the buyout would not be supported by the Scottish Land Commission because it would be viewed as being bought out in order to stop development, which the Land Commission didn't seem to be in support of, despite the whole evening being about land reform and community engagement.
Yes, on this question of community buyout, I totally support that. In fact, I've sort of connected slightly with the one at Castle Woods in Helensburgh, which is the one just behind Jutland Court, those of you who may know it. We just heard the other day we've been granted permission for that community buyout. It's taken a bit of time, but if anyone wants to speak to the committee there, I'm more than happy to give you details on it.
Yeah, on the community ownership point, when I had a meeting with Scottish Enterprise to discuss this, I asked them would you support, would you be interested in, would you entertain potential community ownership of the site? They said no. They're not interested in that. They just want to sell this land off. They want to make a quick bit of profit. They want the job numbers on their spreadsheet. So that's what we're up against, but we can't stop it. I have there just had a quick conversation with Alana from the campaign about if it gets to this point, we do need to crowdfund for it. If we need to crowdfund for the next stage of the campaign, would people here be willing to donate? Yes! On behalf of the campaign, then, I'm more than happy to commit. Save Loch Lomond will launch a crowdfunder for the next stage of this if required. We will go all the way.
I'm going to make a shameless plug here. I'm going to make a shameless plug. Save Loch Lomond has a Facebook and Twitter account, so please keep in touch with that because you'll find out how things develop. But also tonight we have donation tins. Shameless plug though. There's donation tins at the back end. I have to say we are doing this in conjunction with the church because they have given us this venue, which we needed a venue of this size, thankfully. Because you're all so interested that you've all come along, and I've been amazed at the numbers tonight. I'm just trying to calculate it. I think we're over 200 certainly in here tonight. That's enough. Hey, sorry? 267 plus 2 dogs. Mere strength to the 2 dogs. Let them grow that wing. Okay, so we've got that. So that's fantastic news. So we've got that now. So there was a gentleman had a question just there.
Hello. My name is Willie Oswald. I live in Glayfield, which is in Stirling, it's not in Western Bar. Ross quite rightly referred to the planning bill, and a number of the panel referred to the fact that the planning process is quasi-judicial. And councillors involved in the planning system can't invoke the whip, they can't whip, they can't make a collective decision. It's a crying shame that that same objectivity didn't appear in the Scottish Parliament last week, when so many issues that were about community involvement and community empowerment and community issues were overwritten. The SNP Scottish Government and the Tory Party in Parliament are craven disciples of the developers. Now, the single question is, right at the start of this campaign, just after the exhibition, was that 2 years ago nearly? There was unauthorised felling of a significant number of trees in a strategic site. Has anybody been fingered for it? Have they? Thank you.
I don't want to repeat years ago, and together with 2 other colleagues in the Parliament, brought forward proposals against my own party, because I so fundamentally believe in the community's right to actually be heard in the planning process, and for more balance to actually be introduced into the planning system. I was very pleased to vote for it again last week, and as a result of stripping away some of the gains made, but also some of the changes that were voted through. It's not just taking third-party right of appeals, but those of you who happen to live near Airbnbs, proposals that Andy Whiteman brought forward, weakened, voted down, and now you have a charter to do what you like. That's why I voted against the planning bill. Not only myself, but the Greens and the Liberal Democrats, because we felt it didn't reflect the needs of our communities.
Okay, I'm going to say this is the last question, and can I ask you to keep it brief, because we need to get through, okay?
Yeah, I'll keep it as brief as I possibly can. Partly again, just on the issue of quasi-judicial. Yes, it is quasi-judicial, and you cannot make a decision, but you can and do. As an ex-councillor, you do discuss and debate issues in council. So you can take it back to your respective parties and get them to agree The decision does not have to be made, but it certainly has to be debated.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you all, and the two dogs. Where are the two dogs? And the two dogs. Under threat, I'm not worried about divine intervention saying that we should finish up at 9 o'clock. Now I'm worried about maybe coming at me if we don't finish up at 9 o'clock. So we're trying to finish up. Can I thank you all very much for your time? There are two things you can never thank people enough for. It's their time and their intellect that they put into that time. And you've done it tonight, you've come along and shown that. You've shown that you care about something, you've shown that you want to discuss it, you want to hear about it, you want to learn about it. But most of all, you've shown your opinion, which means that Alana, myself, Sam, and yourself, your good self, on Wednesday are going to the council. We will be able to reflect. Yeah, I know you've got your delegation too, sorry. Yeah, I'm not dissing your delegation, not at all. But we will go along and we will make deputation and we will try and reflect the passion that's in the room. I know the councillors will want to hear strategic arguments. What's the strategic argument against it? We will couch it in those terms, but we will reflect the passion and the belief that you brought here tonight, believe us. So thank you very much again. See what's going on. And also, if you please remember the donation tins out the back. We have had tonight, but most of all, can I ask you to show your appreciation for all the members of the panel tonight who have been here and can I thank you for keeping it suitable language for within God's house. Nobody got too carried away, and hopefully we'll see you again. Hopefully we will still be in as many numbers, if not more, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Can I hear you then? Oh yeah. You come on into the You know, the only thing you do is put stipulation. I was talking to Alan, I said briefly, and he was just saying, if I just for both sides, that's it. It's self-regulating. I said about it.
Excuse me.
If I move a couple of chairs there.
Can you guys move? Can you move out? Just watch the cable up. Okay.
Sorry to try and record a few.
All right. Amy, she's going to be an interviewee as well. All right. Move the chairs. We'll have to nestle amongst them.
Right, Lewis, we don't need to move anything. It's simply okay. Right, Lewis.
We understand.
Yeah, there's the camera. And if
Lewis.
Hi. So you're BBC Scotland, are you?
No, we're broadcasting Scotland.
Oh, broadcasting. All right.
An independent.
No,
we don't sell them to anybody. We just broadcast it ourselves.
Oh, well done.
It's a not-for-profit business, and
well done, you. Where are you based?
Over in Glasgow.
Were you originally BBC yourself? Were you all?
Well, I've done television since about 1975.
You'll know a friend of mine who lives in Cardross, and he was with the BBC, and he plays tennis. I can't remember his surname now. Oh my gosh, it'll come to me in a minute.
Anyway.
You probably know him anyway. Well, there we are.
Nice to... Let's...
Yeah,
keep them if you want. Put them in your pocket. Maurice Corey.
Yes.
So, are we ready? No, she's not ready.
Well done.
Linda is the root and branches, the skeleton, the whole operation. She's put it together on her own. I'm just tagging along because I've done this a lot.
Yeah. Not all right. Well done. No, yeah, not at all.
Yeah. Okay, so MSP, Michael Curry, and please, we've been at this incredible meeting this evening, very full of passion, and you suggested something about a second plan. The people who have organised this meeting should have a plan to replace the plan that is being put forward. So, can you just give me a little bit about that? Because I was unsure.
Yeah, I've been involved in about 2 or 3 developments now around the area over the last few years since I've been a councillor in 2012. And one of the things I've always gone in to fight with, shall we say, is to have an alternative plan, to offer something that the community want. And in both cases we were very successful. And I'm saying here to the team here exactly that. Now that alternative plan can be a natural woodland, it can be something like Pitlochry, something like Landmark up at Carr Bridge. It can be something, that's aesthetically pleasing to the community, is what the community want. It might be a play park, whatever. Now, one of the things I do also promote, because I'm chairman of the cross-party group for Armed Forces and Veterans in the Scottish Parliament, is the Armed Forces Covenant, and we do have funds available to look at these sort of things within communities where there is a reasonable population of military personnel, both serving and veterans in our community, which we do have here. So there's opportunities there. And I think what we need to do is think out of the box and offer these opportunities. Now, everybody here has a want to have a nice place to walk, and that's why I mentioned the point about the existing, the proposed plan that's come in is to make it better for a more wider and sort of woodland walk up to Loch Lomond, the Maid of the Loch Pier. So there's no reason why they can't do something with Drumkinnon Wood. And also my colleague, Councillor Sally Page, has got a very good plan for the other side for Balloch Park, and in conjunction with what I've mentioned. So there is the essence and the sort of skeleton of a plan there.
Why do you need to develop it at all?
Well, I mean, when I say develop, I'm talking about developing it within the relation to the ground that's here already. People want the walks, they want water sports, they want better facilities for the boats along the moorings or the jetties. They want to develop things like the Balloch Castle, and that also creates jobs. Because at the end of the day, what I'd like to see is also jobs coming to the area, quality jobs coming to the area. And the sort of plan that Councillor Page is offering is one of those. Okay, and exactly what's happening with the development now. Since, dare I say, the awful fire they had at Cameron House, there's going to be more development there and properly organised, what have you. So I believe that's an alternative. And also, I think it's important because where we've got down in Castle Woods, for example, I mentioned in Helensburgh, is exactly that. We're going to have a wood walkway through, it'll be lit possibly, it'll have nice places for kids. And what we must never forget is the kids, the young people, and of course, people of senior years who have more time to enjoy our leisure facilities. So that's what I'm getting at. And let that come from the people and come from the community.
Okay, thank you very much
right?
for talking to us
Not at
on
all.
Broadcasting Scotland, Michael.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much. Thank
Hope
you
we
very
see you
much.
again
It's
another
Morris,
day.
it's Morris
I
Corrie.
beg your pardon. Maybe I didn't write it down correctly. Morris Corrie. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jackie. Where's Jackie? I don't know. Sorry, Morris.
Oh, no, not all right. No,
No, it's Amy we want. Amy. Let's have Amy. I asked her first. Now, here's... Jackie's got to leave. Jackie? Oh, she's yakkering.
Sorry.
Oh.
Still want a word, are you okay?
Yeah, yes, if you've got time.
Right, yeah.
Oh, we could have just done two. Hello. So, it's been quite an exciting meeting with people suggesting civil disobedience and people getting really upset. Well, you saw it, I'm sure. Amy, whilst Jackie's... oh, is she coming now? Jackie's coming. All right. Okay, it's okay, Jackie. It's always a bit haphazard. We don't know how to make it all, because there's only we don't have any runners to help and people to give you mop you down after all that talking. It's quite fascinating. I mean, there was so much, and we've only got a few moments. So why don't you pick out the nugget that? Actually, you probably got to tell everybody who you are. This is Labour MSP, Jackie.
Jackie Bailey, Labour MSP for Dumbarton. Which
So-
of course includes Ballaugh and Loch Lomond, so I have the best constituency in the world.
Of course you do.
I do.
On the bonny banks.
Indeed.
But I mustn't sing because I'll get something to a copyright or something. Now, out of all of that stuff, what was the thing that you'd like to really press home?
I don't think the economic benefit actually is merited within this application, and when I consider that Scottish Enterprise purchased the land all those years ago for more than 2 million, they're selling it for 200,000. The amount they will give in grants and loans to Flamingo Land will exceed that. So we as taxpayers are paying for a development that this local community doesn't want.
And does it need developing?
Well, there is an argument that people come to the national park because they want to enjoy the natural beauty. Why we would want to spoil that with a development like Flamingo Land is beyond me. But I've looked at the job numbers, I've looked at the potential economic benefit, and to be honest, it doesn't stack up. I think this area can do so much better than Flamingo Land.
Wouldn't it be better to put this somewhere else? Because there's so many areas in Scotland that could do with something. Indeed, a gentleman did point out that the place near him is very successful.
There's lots of opportunities across Scotland, and tourism is going up. That's a good thing for our local economies. But to take away the most iconic bit at the southern end of the national park, I think would be a mistake. And I hope that the national park, in considering the full application, actually find common cause with the local community and reject that application.
Thank you very much, Jackie. Very kind of you to talk to us. Hope we speak to you again another day. Have a good evening. So, Amy, it's your turn, most definitely. I did ask Amy to come up first, but then, people always push in the way, don't they? But now, I'm told, because I've never met you before, but you're a very passionate person against this proposal.
Yeah, I am. I'm from the local area, so I live in Ballaugh, and I'm really, really against the whole development plan and stuff, and I think that it's really important for younger people, people my age, to actually stand up, because we are going to be the next generation of this area, and I think it's important that we have a voice as well, to be heard and to be against the whole development plan.
And are you doing this as part of a project?
Yes, so my higher persuasive English essay, I've chose to write on the Flamingo Land, and more specifically why we should not be supporting it, and why we should go against it, and why it shouldn't be allowed.
Will you better put a video clip in there?
Maybe, Probably not though, because it is just a persuasive English essay, but hopefully I'll get to publish it and more people will get to read it to see a more kind of younger person's view on the whole plan.
Okay, thank you very much for talking to us. You're very kind. Thank you, Amy. So,
how are you doing?
You were very, very passionate, sir. Pat Lee.
Yes, Pat Lee from Lanarkshire.
And you came all this way for this meeting because it's very important to you.
Massively important. I'm 35-year married this year.
I should say you don't look that old.
And the majority of that time, I've spent my time here in the Highlands, travelling through Balloch and the Trossachs and down the peninsula. The fact is, this land belongs to the people. The Scottish Enterprise Board are simply the guardians of that land, but they're massively corporate now, so their only interest is making cash, but making cash at the expense of the public purse. How can you buy a piece of land for £2 million, and where's the justification in selling it for 200,000?
I can't answer your question. I've got no answer for it. But you did say that you've got a development that contains, I don't know, something similar to this idea over near where you live.
Yes.
Is it a fun park or something, is it?
Yeah, it's M&D's theme park.
We're advertising this company, you realise that, don't you?
There are other parts you can go to. Please feel free to do so. But the fact is, that is a project for the site that was really beneficial. Mm-hmm. So it was the right project for the right site.
So, in other words, we could put this somewhere else.
Definitely. I'm not against Flamingo Land coming to Scotland creating any amount of jobs. Again, it's questionable the actual amount of jobs, because if you've ever been involved in setting up a new company, it's top-loaded in the first month to a month and a half, and then they gradually reduce the figures. So the actual figures will be much, much less in long-term jobs. But the fact is, this place, the gateway to the Highlands, is not the place for this idea.
Thank you very much, Pat.
You're
very
more
kind
than
of you to talk to us.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Good evening. So now, tell everybody who you are.
Jim Boland.
And you're an independent councillor?
I'm a member of the Community Party Councillor on Western Bartonshire Council.
And now, your words were very strong on the stage a few moments ago, suggesting even civil disobedience.
I think so. I think, as I was saying, when you live in a democracy and the establishment don't listen to you, 57,000 people have objected to this. You've got a right to come up with civil disobedience and non-violent direct action as a last resort.
So you're going to follow the Extinction Rebellion and glue yourself to the tractors?
Yes, well, I think the decisions will be made nearer the time, but I think we've got a process to go through first. If all else fails, then I think we need to stand up and be counted and make sure Flamingo Land doesn't happen and ruin Balloch.
Do you need any development here at all?
I think we need limited development in the area, but I think that needs to be done in a planned manner in consultation with local people who have got a plethora of good ideas about how it could be developed sensitively and no turned into a theme park like Flamingo Land are wanting to do.
Now, the most important part of what you were saying was that next week there's a meeting, and you never know if somebody watches our programme, they might come along to the meeting. So would you advertise that next Wednesday?
Absolutely. Wednesday, 26th of June at 6 p.m. Western Bartonshire Council will be discussing this application at their new headquarters at 16 Church Street, Dumbarton. I would urge every single person to come along. You've got a legal right to attend a public meeting in the council. Please come along and let the councillors know how you feel.
Let's hope the emotion gets up. Thank you very much. Very kind of you to talk to me. Good luck. Bye-bye. Have we got anybody else? Oh, it's Sally. No, it's fine. No, it's just absolutely fine. I mean, it's always a little bit. It's It's all right. Just talk to me. Don't worry about it. Okay. Sally, now, I talked to Morris.
Yes.
And I've listened to all the things you've said. And what I'd like to know is some of the detail of your plan, because I didn't catch it. You know, Morris was saying something about an alternative plan. Give us a little bit of a rundown of what you've got ideas for.
Thank you. My alternative plan is not actually for this area. As I mentioned, for the area of West Riverside, I would very much like to see that tidied up and with a few more facilities such as picnic tables and litter bins, just so people can continue to enjoy the simplicity of that area, which is what people come to Balloch for. My plans are regarding the castle and Balloch Park. I'd like to enhance Balloch Park. It's well used at the moment. It could be increased. The usage could be increased if we made the facilities better. Currently there's one small cafe, but if we were to build a nature hub with a countryside classroom overlooking the loch, I think that could be used for educational purposes, recreational purposes, and is accessible to all because we have good transport links in Balloch. Balloch Castle currently lies empty and the council patches it up once a year. It costs us a lot of money to upkeep something that's not being used. I would like to see perhaps some flats in Balloch Castle and maybe a cafe and a gallery down below, or a hotel, and I've had someone quite interested in that. That would provide employment and it would enhance the park. There are plenty of other examples of country parks that have hotels within them, and it works very well. The trees in Balloch Park are particularly special. A lot of them have individual designations on them, but the tree collection is old now. We need to update that. We need to have a 20-year programme of enhancing the trees in Balloch Park for everyone's enjoyment. That would be what I would like to see, just to lift Balloch a bit.
That sounds extremely interesting, and I don't know what to say really, but it sounds very good. So, Sally, thank you very much for speaking to us. Sally Park, Conservative Councillor in the...
Sally Page.
Sally Page, I beg your pardon.
Conservative Councillor for Lomond Ward, which is this ward, and I'm very pleased to represent it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. See you again, I hope.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh.
Yes.
Good night. Thank you both.
Oh,
Thank
we're
you
still
both
live.
for coming. Okay.
We're always live. Okay, have we got anybody else on the horizon? A nice gin. All right. So I think that's probably the end of our long broadcasts from here in Balloch. And if you've got an objection to putting a flamingo land at the Loch Lomond, then write in and make your objection heard. Thank you very much.